a passionate instigator and dynamic problem solver. Dr. Kevin Ross Emery, the host of the Dr. Kevin Radio Show, will be taking you outside the box, behind the curtain, and identifying the load of BS we are fed every day. And now, Dr. Kevin.
Hello, 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 and welcome to the third Thursday of the month here on the Dr. Kevin Show. And every third Thursday or fourth Thursday when there's 5 Thursdays, pay attention, wake up, I'm talking fast now. We have Rob Stewart from innercenter.org and Planetary Influences. We talk about the upcoming astrology. We try to do it as close to the change from one sun sign to another. So on 5 Thursday months, it's usually the 4th, and on 4 Thursday months, it's usually the 3rd, and on no Thursday months, well, we're all just screwed then. So, as always, we're going to have Rob on. Usually we have Reverend Lori Powers-Otto, but today is her birthday, and she has begged out as her family has made big plans to celebrate her 29th birthday. I think it's for the 29th or 30th time, I'm not sure, but we do want to wish Lori a happy birthday here on the Dr. Kevin Show. And we will see her back in a couple of weeks for our next Thoughtful Thursday, which is the second Thursday of the month. Remember, this is a live call-in show. So we'd love to have you call in, be part of the conversation, ask your questions, share your opinions. Just make sure it is respectful. And you can do so by calling in at 202-570-7057. That's 202-570-7057. So, Rob, how are you? It's been a whole month since I've talked to you.
Yeah,
how is life?
Well. I'm doing well. Thanks, Dr. Kevin. Thanks for having me on. And I wish Lori a happy 29th birthday, like you said, and miss having her here, but glad she's having fun with her family on her birthday.
Yep, I have no idea what kind of fun that they're having. I can only imagine, and probably my imagination is better than the reality. So anyways, well, I have to tell you, I'm just a little excited. Today, finally, my hot tub was delivered. As you may or may not remember, I'm a Cancer. That is a water sign. For all of you out there who may not know, for me to soak in a hot tub of water, even on a cold night, is my version of heaven. Now, Rob, you're a Scorpio. Are you going to come hang out in the hot tub with me?
That sounds good. That sounds good. Yeah, also a water sign. A lot of water going on in my life, and hot tub. It's an outside hot tub. Is that what you said?
It is yes. It is an outside hot tub. It's right off the back deck of my house, so we can go out into the hot tub, sit there, look at the full moon or whatever moon is out there. Have the cold air on our face. Have everything else cooked at 110, more or less. And then we get to run inside and sit in front of the fireplace. What do you think?
That's real nice. Real nice. Yeah, outside hot tubs. That's hard to beat. That's good stuff.
Yeah. Well, maybe. They originally said end of March or April. I mean, I ordered this months ago. I didn't realize, I guess I should have, that one of the side effects of the pandemic was hot tub places got more orders for hot tubs than they had in stock, and they were all back ordered. Would you have thought of that?
That makes sense. I hadn't thought of that. Makes a lot of sense, though.
Yeah, I mean, I went to buy one. I'm like, hey, I'm here to buy one. I mean, like, I'll buy it. I'll write a check. I'll buy the whole thing. Like, when can you put it in? Oh, we're back ordered for 3 to 4 months, 3 to 5 months, I think they said. I'm like, what? I want it now. I wanted it in yesterday. What's your problem? But it has arrived as we're speaking. The electrician is working on getting it wired. Then the water goes in, and by tomorrow it should be steam a crab ready.
Nice. Nice.
Nice. Well, who knows? Next month when we do planetary influences, I can put I can put our speaking device, and we can sit in the hot tub together, and we can do the show just back and forth on the one mic.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
Hey, I'm not that far a drive away. You can come. I'll put some kind of something in the water so that any COVID germs get killed before they can go anywhere.
You get cooked. Yep.
Hey, so I have to tell you this. The last time I got a hot tub, it was at a house that I owned in Farmington, New Hampshire. And I know a few people at that point that owned hot tubs privately. And before that, my hot tub experience was always vacations, hotels, spas, things like this. And everybody said, you're going to get a hot tub, and you're going to think it's great for a month or two, maybe 3. And then you're going to grow tired of it. And it's going to sit there. And within a year, you're going to go, why did I spend all that money? Why do I have this tub? And at some point, you start thinking, should I just drain it and make it into a planter? So this is what people who had hot tubs told me. And I looked at them and I went, ha, 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 cancer. You have no idea. And I had that hot tub for 18 months, and I don't think it ever went 18 hours. Well, probably. I mean, there were times when I missed a day here or there that I wasn't in that hot tub, and I was nowhere near sick of it when I sold that house. If I could have figured out how to put that hot tub on the top of my car when I drove away and was selling the house, I would have taken it with me. So hot tubs are great. Hot tubs are great. Is it what is it? I know there's different types like chlorine or salt water, or there's all these. I don't know much about it, but this is a fresh water. Okay. So I mean, I still have to put some chemicals in it, but it does shift how many chemicals, and I know that there are all natural things I can put in it, so I keep the chemical content down. Because we all know Dr. Kevin's very delicate, so I wouldn't want to expose my pretty skin to anything that might hurt it now. But it's a fresh water. I haven't even had a chance to look through it. The guys came in today and started to set it up, and my poor husband got stuck with doing all of it because I was doing I was on a clubhouse room, one of my new favorite places to play, and we were talking about psychic versus prophecy, and is there a difference? And I think at any given time we had 40 or 50 people in the room, and we had 8 or 10 people wanting to ask questions, it went for like 2 hours. I had done one the day before on ADHD and creativity. It went like 3.5 hours, and there was still a line of people that wanted questions, and I had to go because I had clients. I was like, okay, but it's a great platform. I'm loving being on there. If any of you out there are on Clubhouse, you can find me at my Dr. Kevin, MYDRKEVIN, or you can just put in my name, Dr. Kevin Ross Emery, and you'll find me, and you can follow me. But I'm doing several things a week on hot tubs. We see where my mind is on Clubhouse. Tomorrow I'm doing something called Empowerment to Permission to Be You, and every Monday morning from 8:45 to 9:45, I do Dr. Kevin Discusses, and this week's topic is psychic development. But they're all over the places. So it's a great megaphone. I'm loving being on there. I'm definitely attracting some new people into the Dr. Kevin world and loving it. So I would offer to invite you, but you have to have an iPhone. Mm-hmm.
That's right. Yep.
Yes. Yep. Now you know why I asked what kind of phone you had.
That's right. That's right. Yep. I'm one of the last people that has a flip phone, I think. Happy with it. Makes calls, and it receives calls, and that's all I need. Well,
whatever makes you happy. I just want the listeners to know. And when I said, "What kind of phone do you have?" I texted him, and I got the response, "Flip." I was waiting for the bird to follow, but it didn't, and then I figured out what he meant. So how much can we tell before we get into the upcoming forecast? Can we tell anything through astrology? I know the answer, but I'm asking you anyways. Can we tell anything through astrology about things like these weather storms, like the things that are going on in Texas? And if we looked at the chart, would we be able to pick up what would be a really horrendous weather year? I mean, is that something that we can do through astrology, Rob?
Boy, I mean, I don't have any experience with that. I would imagine there's some people that look into exactly that. But the way I see it is that the astrology is sort of like a clock on the wall, and we can look at that clock to sort of interpret what time it is, but more of a qualitative, the sort of the energies that are occurring. And the way that I see it is that sometimes those energies play out in politics. Sometimes they play out in, they always play out in our personal lives, but sometimes they play out in more collective ways, like politics and I would assume weather as well. So yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know too much about that, but certainly I'm sure people really dive into that.
So, I find it interesting. Of course, we're going, there are still those people that go, "What climate change? What are you talking about? The climate changes all the time. Some days it's rainy and some days it's sunny." We don't fall in that denial category here on the Dr. Kevin Show. But I'm saying there are some people out there, it would be interesting to look at the U.S. Have you ever figured out how to do a chart of the world? We can do a chart of the country. Could you actually do a chart for Mother Earth? I would love to see a chart for Mother Earth. Can you do a chart for Mother Earth?
I've never seen a chart for Mother Earth. I mean, anything that has a date, a date of importance, and the problem of, well, not the problem, but the difficulty obviously is, yeah, I mean, there's no birthday, I guess you'd say, for Mother Earth. It predates. So yeah, I've never seen that. I don't know if people experimented with that, but I haven't seen it.
It's an interesting thought. I've never thought about it before. When I asked you about the weather, I was like, well, but if we were going to look at weather patterns are interconnected worldwide. So could we look at any one country and see a weather pattern? This is all things, lucky you, Rob, that are coming into my mind right now, that crazy place that I'm going, I'll just ask Rob. And of course, I'll ask him on air, nothing like putting you on the spot.
Right. Yeah, no, a good Mercury retrograde session with all that. But, the thing is with obviously Mother Earth, I mean, it's part of the solar system. It's part of this unique system. It's a part of astrology itself. And so it's difficult to, it's like the eyeball cannot see the eyeball. We can't see what we're viewing the world from. In other words, the awareness of our own consciousness, it's hard to be aware of that, of our true nature. And so when you think of Mother Earth, well, without Mother Earth, the astrology isn't there because everything is based on the orbiting around Mother Earth. The perspective of things orbiting around Mother Earth. So it's a really interesting question, but I wouldn't know how to even look at that.
So here's my next question, and I promise that when we get back, we're going to start the upcoming astrology of what's actually coming up for planetary influences. We'll do it right after our first break. But I am just really loving putting Rob on the spot. I mean, it's just really making my night. I'm sure you're glad to hear that, Rob. So, do Martians or Venetians look to see what house Earth is and what kind of effect it has on their lives? What do you think?
Well, that's the amazing thing is with different planets, there's different. It's just a totally different astrology system. There's a different. They'll have a planet called Earth in their system. If you're to look at the astrology of Mars, I mean, I'm just sort of going off the top of the head here, obviously, but it's just a different system, different energies. But boy, yeah, a totally different building blocks of energies, I would imagine, because it's a totally different perspective.
Well, we are talking, we are in the process of discovering other planets in our solar system. And we are sending probes out, and we are sending space stations out. And it's going to be very interesting to see, and I may not see it in my lifetime, but it will be very interesting to see if we do get a colony on Mars or a colony on Venus or even a colony on the moon. How will astrology or can astrology be used in a predictive nature if somebody's born on the moon? If we have a colony there, people will be born there. Or people will be born on Mars, a stranger in a strange land.
Yeah, it is I have no idea. I have no idea how to even think of that. But interesting thoughts. I have no idea. But I agree that certainly, if we get there, I hope we do. I hope we are able to last long enough to really make something sustainable outside of the Earth too. That seems where we're evolving towards in some respect.
Well, when we come back, Rob will start what our upcoming planetary influences are right here on the planet Earth. But if you want to call and weigh in, or you have any insights about how do you cast a chart if you are being born on Mars, we'd love to hear you here on the Dr. Kevin Show, 202-570-7057.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from New Thought teachers, speakers, and researchers pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
These are the sounds of a dinner that almost didn't happen. A dinner now served, thanks to people like you. Due to COVID-19, 17 million more Americans may face hunger. Feeding America is helping our neighbors in need. And if you're able, you can too. Donations are being accepted at feedingamerica.org/coronavirus. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Dr. Kevin Show here on OMTimes. We are here this week with Rob Stewart from innercenter.org. We are doing our monthly version of Planetary Influences, what is going on in the skies influence what's going on here on the Earth. So before I have you kick that off, I have to tell you what I thought on break, because we know that when we go on break, doesn't mean my thought process goes on break. It means it actually speeds up, right, Rob? So I thought, because I don't know if you remember, but besides what I put out in spiritual books and business books and inspirational motivational books and psychology books, besides all of those things that I write and I have out, I also do fantasy fiction and science fiction books. And I thought it would be really cool to do a science fiction book where somebody who was born on the planet Mars was talking about the astrology of Mars and how it shifted and what were the time zones on Mars and how did you do the longitude and latitude and what do you have to take into consideration? I just think that would be fascinating. It's making me want to write a short story based just on that. What do you think?
I think that's absolutely fascinating. And, the thing is that, of course, our bodies are rooted from Mother Earth, so whether or not someone is born on another planet, there's still the material, the body itself is being made from Mother Earth. So there's still there's a connection there, obviously. And so, it's just a fascinating topic. I'm sure in the astrology discussions, I'm sure they've touched upon this, but I don't know much about it.
Okay, well, I'll get you on to the stuff you're really here for, and I'll stop torturing you. So, tell us what is going on astrologically. What problems are we got coming up now, and great opportunities as well.
Right. Well, the last show we had, so the last week of January, the astrology was, and we talked about that is pretty intense, and was sort of expecting something to sort of show up, I guess, in the collective, and I think it's arguable whether or not that really happened, which I think is a good thing, that there wasn't any big major challenges, I guess. But this month ahead, so today, the sun entered Pisces today. Today is February 18th. And the Pisces season is about transcendence. It's about infinity. It's about merging type of energies. There's a lot of compassion. And it's about dissolving one's sense of self. It's the last phase in the zodiac, in the zodiac, and it's about the collective consciousness. And there's this old joke that I'm sure you've heard, Dr. Kevin, about one fish asking another fish, "How's the water?" And the other fish replies, "What the heck is water?" And this really speaks to what Pisces is. Pisces is what surrounds us, the collective consciousness, the sort of thing that we're not fully aware of, but yet is there. And so we're not fully aware of everything that's going on in our daily lives. Just like a fish that's swimming in water, it doesn't think about the water because it's just part of the backdrop, I guess you'd say. And so just like a fish not knowing it's in water, we're not able to have a full objective experience of everything that's occurring now in our own lives. And so we sort of have this limited subjective awareness of the world. There's in Buddhism and a lot of these a lot of ancient texts, they talk about that we're living in a dream and things like that. And it's not saying that things aren't real or, there's a lot of different interpretation there. But, the big thing being that we're having a subjective experience in this world. And it's really difficult to have a more objective, full awareness of everything going on. And so Pisces is about becoming more aware of our stories, becoming more aware of the mind experiencing the world. It's like taking a step back from the subjective view and objectively looking at our stories. That's a real Piscean quality. Pisces is about awareness itself and awareness of our subjectivity. So, over this next month, there's opportunities for transcendence from our personal stories, our subjectivity in life, moments of revelation, of seeing like, oh my gosh, like just observing us experiencing our story. And so that's a big theme here when the sun is in Pisces. Pisces can also sort of on the shadow side of Pisces, it can be about losing control or sort of throwing your arms up in the air and giving up, just feeling, I don't know, even becoming lost in the story or wanting a story, not wanting to have, with transcendence and pure awareness, there can be confusion, because it's like, well, I need something, I want something to hold on to, type of thing. That's sort of the what we do with as egos. And so in Pisces, the shadow side can be sometimes about giving up or throwing the hands up in the air. There can be escapism that occurs in Pisces. And so just being aware of these things over this next month, as we sort of complete this sort of the astrological year, moving into Aries next month. And today, the 18th of February, Saturn is square Uranus, and it's making an exact square today. And this is a real theme for 2021. This is pretty much throughout the whole year of 2021, we are experiencing a square between these two planets within about 8 degrees for the whole year. And like I said, it's exactly conjunct today. It'll be, exactly square today. It'll be exactly square again in mid-June, and then again in mid-December. And so Saturn is about this physical world. It's about this three-dimensional realm. It's about real-world concerns. It's about structure and time and boundaries. Saturn's about authority and oftentimes about old institutions of the past and themes of restriction and challenges. And Uranus is about our impulse towards freedom. It's about liberation and breakthroughs and individuality and casting aside the old chains of the past. And so these two planets are really different, although they are both co-rulers of Aquarius. And we have a lot of planets in Aquarius at this time. And these two planets are applying friction to each other this whole year. So we have this sort of conflict between the old sort of authority and structures and some restrictions and the need for maturity and responsibility, but also that's coming in conflict with this sort of liberation and freedom and progression and transcendence. And this is a theme, like I said, for the whole year. And Saturn is the stronger of the two, because Saturn is in Aquarius, and Saturn is a co-ruler of Aquarius. And Uranus is in Taurus, and Uranus is in its fall in Taurus. So Uranus, it's a bit weakened in the sign of Taurus throughout the year. So the theme of this year is that the need for individual freedom, our expressing our uniqueness, can be a bit restricted this year. And it can speak to, these themes of social distancing, the sort of all that one could really see that this could be a theme for a good part of 2021 based on those alignments for those planets.
Well, one of the things that strikes me, and I have two questions. I have a question about Pisces, and then I want to also comment on the square between Uranus and Saturn. When you described that square, it immediately made me think of the coupling of Biden and Harris. Biden is the old way, the old school. He is just another old white man that got elected to the White House. And I'm not against Biden. I don't say that as I'm anti-Biden, but it's just the truth of what it is. It's an old white man in the White House that has decades of experience in managing Washington to try to recover us from this disastrous shit show we've had for the last 4 years, which was all promise and no delivery. But you have as a vice president the first female, the first female of color. She's a combination of a couple of different kinds of color. That's not correct, but of a couple of different kinds of races. And so I look at the Biden-Harris ticket as that Uranus, in a way, Uranus like change and new way of doing things, but she's the vice president. And the leader of the known world, as we used to call him, is Biden, which is definitely more Saturnian in nature, where Harris is more definitely Uranus in nature as far as from a perspective of a political system. So first of all, before I ask the question about Pisces, what do you think of that? Well, I mean, does that make sense to you? Am I on the right track here?
Yeah, no, I see how those, I think that works. The thing is with Saturn in square with Uranus is that, at least from my perspective, it doesn't seem as though Kamala and Biden are at odds with each other, or, it seems like they're both in alignment in terms of policy and things of that nature. So that I agree. I agree in principle what you're saying, and I guess the challenge here would be that with Saturn and Uranus, there's going to be friction. There's going to be two diverging energies that are having to go through the rock tumbler, and maybe I don't know enough about the situation between the two, but that doesn't appear to be part of the equation, at least from my understanding of it. But I agree with what you said.
Well, you said they're both co-rulers of Aquarius. There is a place where they both have a common core that they come from, but in two very different ways. And just because there is friction does not necessarily mean friction is bad. Friction is what takes, a hunk of coal and makes a diamond. I think over the next 4 years, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some very subtle friction in how a woman of Kamala's age and background and gender and all of those things may at times have a different way of going or being out in the world than a Joe Biden. And again, friction doesn't have to be a bad thing. Sometimes friction creates beautiful end results. Sometimes friction is exactly what we need in order to get somewhere. But so again, I mean, I don't hear any rumors that they're fighting or anything, and I don't even think it has to be an obvious knockdown, drag out, you're wrong, no, you're wrong, fighting, don't forget, I'm the president, well, blah, blah, why did you have... I don't say that it's that kind of friction, but I just think that the friction may be the way in which they see and experience the world, which can, in essence, make them more powerful when they come together and discuss the movement forward. Does that make any more sense when I say it that way?
Yeah. I definitely see the points you're making, and I agree that friction. It's through friction that evolution occurs. It's through So I don't see friction as a bad thing either. There's some, and maybe I just don't know enough about the inner workings between the two of them. Obviously, because they're sort of 10th house people, we get to see their image in society, but don't really get to know the inner workings between the two energetically. But there's a lot of examples of this Saturn-Uranus thing in terms of financial institutions. We look at like the Bitcoin surge and the sort of new perspective on money and digital currency, and that's a real Uranian theme. There's real friction between where do you invest money, these sort of old institutions for finances, and this new sort of Bitcoin. And then another one is also the whole GameStop thing and the Wall
Robin Hood, yep.
All that stuff. So these are the types of things, these are the types of themes that we're going to see a heck of a lot of this year in terms of this sort of new perspective, wanting freedom from these old ways of working. And that type of theme, we're just going to see time and time again, where there's like this, Bitcoin going sky high or whatever these things are, but then some sort of pullback, some sort of friction with regulatory types of things. I would expect to see such things this year.
So I think that we're also seeing it as we're seeing the face-off between the internet and the regulatory committees. And also internally, now we have the big face-off between Facebook and Apple, where they're both accusing each other of being an uncaring behemoth that is taking advantage of its followers. So yeah, I mean, that's all playing out. Now, I've always heard that if you look to the 12th house, which is the natural home of Pisces, and you look into Piscean energy, that one of the things that you always want to look at is a place where you can look and see where somebody may have addiction issues. There's nothing that I heard you actually say about that Piscean energy that would necessarily lead to the connection with addiction issues to like drugs or alcohol or things like that. But I've heard that connection made several times. Is that connection incorrect, or is there a connection I'm not seeing? We'll answer that when we get back.
Okay.
We'll answer that when we get back, because the music has started. I'm here with Rob Stewart from innercenter.org. When we come back, we're going to talk about those drug addict Pisceans merrily drinking their lives away, and the rest of what's going on in planetary influences. Please feel free to call in at 202-570-7057.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Vox Novus, the new voice. Vox Novus, the new dimension. Vox Novus, thought and movement leaders who will share from their experience and offer tools to help us navigate our rapidly changing world. My name is Victor Furman. Join me every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio for Vox Novus, the new voice.
The United States has the highest rate of incarceration in the world. At the Equal Justice Initiative, we believe mass incarceration has to end. There is this presumption of dangerousness and guilt that gets assigned to Black and brown people. We have to confront our history of racial injustice and commit to a new era of truth. There's something better waiting for us, something that feels more like freedom. Truth can inspire change. Please learn more at eji.org.
Okay, Rob, make that connection between addiction and Pisces and why people would say that, and then I'm going to shut up and let you finish this astrological forecast.
Well, yeah, I mean, so that point about Pisces and some tendencies towards addiction is absolutely one of the, I guess you'd say, the shadow sides of Pisces. Every sign has this, has some difficulties associated with them. It doesn't mean that all Pisces deal with such problems, but the bottom line is that through addictions, one can sometimes separate themselves from the story. And that's what Pisces is about seeing the story and seeing it from an objective standpoint. And so we can approach that sort of surrendering from our story through healthy ways or unhealthy ways, through addiction or escapism or whatever it is. But like I said, it can be done in a healthy way or an unhealthy way. So yeah, that quality does apply that you were talking about. Does that answer your question, Dr. Kevin?
Sure does.
Okay. Yeah, and so just going back to Saturn squaring Uranus, there's a couple other things I wanted to talk about. The first is that Saturn in Aquarius is about connecting with a vision or a purpose that's greater than oneself. And, Aquarius is about finding your unique tribe. It's about being the unique individual that you are. And with Saturn in Aquarius, it might feel like a burden or restriction to being different and unique. And, so maybe there's some challenges with Saturn in Aquarius when you express your unique self. And, obviously we're living in this pandemic occurring. It's, you wanting to do things the way you always want to. And of course there's burden and restriction. Those things aren't possible at this point in time. So, Saturn in Aquarius can be very introverted. It can be very isolated. And it speaks to this sort of energy of wanting to belong and wanting to fit in. So we're all wanting to fit in, wanting to work toward together to find solutions and move through this difficult time that we're all in. But with Saturn in Aquarius, it can be easier to be a follower than a leader. And I think it's important for us all to be aware that it might be easier to set aside one's own individuality at this time, and that comes with obviously some negatives, and it comes with some positives as well. Just to sort of cater to the group and things like that. So these are the energies with Saturn and Aquarius. And so let me see, I'm just looking at my notes. Uranus, like I said, is about individuation. It's about freedom, liberation. It's about breaking from conditioning and things like that. So these two planets are really causing a push-pull. And I think the example of these financial institutions, the old system and, fitting in, playing the game by the rules in terms of Wall Street and investing in sort of the regular manners versus this Robin Hood, GameStop type of thing. These are exactly these types of energies that are being shown here. And like I said, it is a theme for the whole for this whole year through 2021. So let's see. Right. And so, it's about balancing responsibility with freedom and finding the balance between the two, like that rock and the tumbler, through this friction, through this give and take, there is a smooth gemstone that emerges. And it's about cautious change. It's about incremental openings and awakenings. And there might be some continuous themes or patterns of facing unexpected problems and finding solutions. This is the sort of interchange between Saturn and Uranus when they're squaring each other for the year. And also today on February 18th, we have Mars squaring Venus. The exact square, I think, might have been yesterday. I've forgotten exactly when it was, but it's been active all throughout February through March 3rd. And so the thing with this is just know that there can be a mixture of both love and anger that can play out in relationship, or frustration that can occur, strong attraction and fun and enjoyment, but also frustration at times. So just be aware of these energies, Mars and Venus, sort of the masculine and feminine, in this dance together. And so that, there can be imbalances between Mars and Venus when they're squaring each other at times. So that's just something to be aware of until the end of February and into the 3rd of March. And then on February 21st, we have Mercury going direct in Aquarius. Mercury has been retrograde since, when was it? I think it was February 1st. And so Mercury's retrograde right now. It's retrograde for 3 weeks, and it goes direct on February 21st. Retrograde Mercury is a time for reassessing, reevaluating, relooking at things in life, and sort of honing in and making the adjustments or looking at things in a different way. And when it goes direct on the 21st, that's when, it's about moving forward with the things we've been learning over these past 3 weeks, and reasserting, refocusing the energy on the things that are important, and taking action and moving ahead. So that's occurring on February 21st. And let's see, so on February 25th, Venus enters Pisces, and Venus is really the essence of the feminine energy. It's what we attract. It's what we are attracted to. It's what we value. It's also how we connect in our personal relationships. And so when Venus enters the sign of Pisces, we have the opportunity to sort of have those revelations in terms of the ways how we relate to others. We can sort of have, it can show up in many ways, of course, but we do have opportunities to sort of see how what our stories are in relationship, and exploring those sort of things. In the Piscean energy, there's a lot of merging and surrendering energy. It's, again, can be some escapism tendencies and addictions and things like that playing out as well. And, with Venus in Pisces, there can be, maybe it's, just be aware, it could be a time of like grabbing for those bags of chips, or, whatever it is, whatever the vice is. It can be a period of time in which these sort of addictions, whether, from along the spectrum of addictions, from very minor to very extreme, this can be a time to be mindful of that and work with those energies. Let's see. Yeah, any questions so far, Dr. Kevin? I don't want to just be rattling off. If you have questions or something you want to elaborate on.
Well, I wanted to make sure that I didn't interrupt to the point where you were rushing through the last of your few things, because I tied up so much of the conversation with my ever-present, ever-wandering mind. So, I have an interesting question. Does Venus like to be in Pisces?
You know what? Yeah, Venus, and I want to pull that up. I'm trying to, let's see. I believe so. The dignity, yeah, boy, I don't have it right here, but yeah, I believe so. I believe Venus is very, in fact, I think it might be exalted in Pisces, but I'll have to check that. should have all these exaltations memorized by now, but unfortunately I don't.
So before I ask any other questions, I want to make sure that you get out any of the other, like, I don't have any specific questions about anything that you said. I have some general comments and questions if we have time, but I want to make sure that we get any of the other things. We haven't talked about anything like what the moon is doing or stuff like that. So I just want to make sure we get to that before we run out of time.
Yeah, okay. Well, cool. Yeah, so that's the last thing I was going to talk about is we have a full moon and a new moon coming up. The full moon is in Virgo on February 27th, and if you've been listening to the show, full moons are a time of completion and harvesting of what we've been putting our energy into over the past 6 months. And so every month, every new moon during the month, it's sort of the beginning of a new cycle. And 6 months later, we get sort of the harvest of that new cycle that we begin. And so this full moon in Virgo this cycle began 6 months ago with a new moon in Virgo at that time. And so it's a time of, Virgo's about service. It's about discernment. It's about looking at the details, seeing what needs changing and upgrading and adjusting. Virgo can also be about unequal relationships as well, like teacher-student type of relationships. And so some of these things might be coming to fruition, to completion in your life, and at this period of time, in this sort of continuous birth, rebirth, and things like that. So, and this full moon is trining Uranus and Taurus. And so there's something as if helping release old things that were holding us back, and living more according to our own values. But with that square with Saturn, there's still, having to be mature, responsible, and dealing with some restrictive and limitation with all that. But there's something about releasing something that wasn't working with full moon in Virgo, something that we've been discerning which way to go in our own lives and letting go of something that's just not working anymore. Be aware of that for this full moon. And then the new moon in Pisces is occurring on March 13th. And this is a really interesting one because it's in Pisces, and Venus is actually conjunct Neptune at that time. So there's a lot of Piscean energy that's occurring. Venus is conjunct Neptune and the new moon in Pisces. And so, like I said, new moons are new beginnings. It's a new 6-month cycle. But this is, with all this Piscean energy, it's a really dreamy time. It can be a time of just be aware that with Venus conjunct Neptune, there can be some rose-colored glasses that we're wearing at this time, or maybe there's some friendships that at that time that are new beginnings, and they can be perfect and absolutely wonderful. But just be aware that sometimes maybe there's some dreamy thinking or rose-colored glasses, looking at it as if it's very ideal, when in reality it may not be as ideal as we think, but it's still, can very obviously be a wonderful thing. It's just that we can be a bit dreamy about things when Venus is conjunct Neptune like that. So, it's a time of great connections with people, but the possibility for some illusions and things like that. But the universe really uses these types of dreamy feelings to help us learn about, realize deeper truths about ourselves and what's really important and things of that nature. So there's nothing to be conservative about. Just be simply aware that this can be a time where we might be looking through rose-colored glasses a bit more than we usually do. So just be aware of that on the 13th of March. and around that time.
Okay. So I do want to weigh in. Venus is exalted in Pisces. And one of the reasons I ask that question is because sometimes you refer, or I refer, it's usually more you, it's more your fault than mine. No, to the idea that a planet is in its detriment or is exalted or something like this. And those are terms that sometimes slip out. And I don't know if the general listener knows what we mean by that. So what does it mean when a planet is exalted? I just figured that if we have a couple of minutes left, and if you're done with your planets, I just thought we would do a quick, what do you mean by exalted? Oh, and we're going to have to find out next month.
All right.
So you're going to just have to stay tuned next month when we hear all about these Arians that are going to be coming to take over our astrological skies with Rob Stewart from innercenter.org. Next week, Dr. Justin Michael Klein, and he's going to be talking about things to do with your back in motion and with different things that can help you get rid of all your back pain and back issues without surgery. No medication. Sounds good to me. Rob, thanks as always.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Dr. Kevin. Always a pleasure.